to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is proclamation, military retiree appreciation day. We have Colonel Norm Gretchen here to receive it.
Good to see you. Whereas military retirees have served our country faithfully in times of peace and war, and whereas military retirees have made significant sacrifices in defense of our freedom and liberty, and whereas a large number of military retirees and their families live, work, and play in the Leavenworth community, and whereas the Fort Leavenworth Garrison will conduct a Retiree Appreciation Day on October 28, 2017. Now, therefore, I, Mark Preisinger, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Leavenworth, do hereby join the Fort Leavenworth Garrison in recognizing the contributions, sacrifices, and loyalty of military retirees in our community by proclaiming October 28, 2017 as Military Retiree Appreciation Day. And we have Colonel Norm Gretchen here to accept this.
Thank you,
sir.
Mayor.
And would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, please. Honorable Mayor and Commissioners, on behalf of the over 20,000 retirees like myself who reside in what is referred to as the greater Fort Leavenworth catchment area, I accept this proclamation. We have folks from all the services, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, Merchant Marines, and it's a good place to live. Very proud to live here. You take good care of us. I'm headed off to Korea next week, and I can tell you, I can't wait to come back. So thanks a lot, folks.
Old business, consideration of previous meeting minutes from October 10th.
Ready for motion, sir?
Someone has comments on it, I'll take them up.
I move that we approve the minutes from the October 10th regular meeting.
Second. Motion and second to accept the October 10th, 2017 regular meeting minutes. Begin voting, Commissioner Rainey.
Aye.
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 Passes 4-0. Next item, next two items require roll call votes. First one, second consideration of ordinance 8061, amending chapter 82 on personnel.
Mr. Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem and Commission, there are no changes from the October 10th meeting when these are on first consideration. Both this item and the next one have to deal with the change in the personnel policy manual, which you'll also see later tonight.
Any questions or comments?
Yes, sir.
Do a roll call the roll. Begin, Commissioner Weaver.
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Rainey. Aye. 4-0. Next item, second consideration, ordinance 8062, amending chapter 2, section 2-57.
Again, no changes from last week's first consideration or from 2 weeks ago.
Brandon or Williams, can you just kind of highlight what this is about? Just quick.
Sure. The city, tonight you'll see the revisions to the personnel policy manual. It's actually the next item, which is designed to streamline the hiring and recruitment process for city employment, putting some more authority in department directors, but more importantly, speeding up the process by which we are able to bring people on board. In order to do that, we repealed some ordinances so that everything now from hiring and recruitment to discipline and sick leave and all the rules are now all in the personnel policy manual. They don't reside both in code of ordinances and in a separate document. So there's been a number over the last 3 months of steps that we've taken to get these items out of the code of ordinances, and then tonight we'll be putting the finished product into the personnel policy manual.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? No. Roll call vote. Begin the roll call with Commissioner Rainey.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Passes 4-0. New business. This is time for citizen participation. Invite any citizens that care to address the commission on items that is not listed on the agenda, or if they have any petitions to present to the city clerk. Anyone care to speak? Seeing none, we'll move on to general items. Consider recommendation to the personnel policy manual. revisions?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, you want to come up to the table? In commission, this, our HR Director, Lana Lanter, will go through just briefly the personnel policy manual that we have sort of built up to tonight. This is the policy that would then go into the personnel policy manual that we would start using.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, this is with a few revisions and adjustments, the same as the policy report presented back in the July 18th study session. Had asked for any comments and feedback, and with the feedback that we received, we made a few revisions and clarifications throughout the policy. But Section 2, the first revisions, primarily is just housekeeping and removing the civil service, reference to the civil service system and the Civil Service Commission. As was mentioned in the 2 ordinance repeals, that was the main appeal for the 2 that you just approved for the second roll call vote tonight, was the removal of the civil service appendix and commission. The Section 6 is probably the most extensive change to the personnel policies and procedures, which outlines the recruitment, selection, and placement. And as City Manager Kramer mentioned earlier, this one gives a little more authority to the department heads. It does outline the steps in the recruitment, the vacancy process, which is similar, but does allow us to go forward and use the same applicants from one job if it's similar to another, instead of having to repost it all together. It also gives us the same opportunity to utilize that register for up to a year and pull those same applicants if another vacancy occurs. It allows the same process as far as the police department having an open announcement at all times, basically, for vacancies, and gives the city manager the authority to determine if there are other positions that require that same consideration. So it does provide a little more flexibility. The civil service system had outlined a rating period or a rating guide system that required the HR department to rate applicants, and on a point system up to 100 points, determined based on their application, their qualifications, and the job requirements. That point system will then go away with the removal of the civil service system, and it will be determined whether or not they meet the minimum qualifications or they don't. If they do, all of the qualified applicants will go forward to the hiring manager for determination of that hiring process. With the next section, which goes into Section 7, it identifies some changes with, Section 8. Section 7 identifies performance evaluation changes. That was primarily a housekeeping issue as well. Section 8, the promotions policy, also refers back to some changes because of the civil service ordinance and removing that language from the policy. It then goes into Section 15, which is the grievance policy, which the final section in that step was the appeal to the Civil Service Commission, which was Section 15-7. That will be removed in its entirety, with the final step of that process being the appeal to the city manager. And finally, Appendix 3, the civil service system, will be removed completely. Those are the highlights to the changes. There are also 2 forms that was requested as far as the personnel requisition, which will start the process, and then the after-action report, which the hiring manager will be responsible for returning back to HR for both HR and city manager review to determine what process was used and how the applicant was selected.
Any questions or comments from the commission?
No, I think this puts it more in line with today's hiring practices, even in the private sector, is where it really mirrors more of it. It's more efficient.
Quick question, Ms. Lantner, is the hiring manager, is that only the department directors, or is it always down to the manager?
It could be down to usually it's either the foreman or the superintendent. The hiring manager can be the direct supervisor of the position. However, on the after-action report, the department head does have to sign off on that to say that they have been apprised of the process that they followed and of the selection that was made.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
No, sir.
If not, I'll take a motion.
I move that we approve the recommendations to the personnel policy manual as presented by staff.
Second.
Motion and second to accept the recommendations for the changes to personnel policy manual. Begin voting. Commissioner Weekly.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, a couple resolutions. First one, Resolution B 2180, the 2017 Capital Fund Program Grant for Planners 2.
Have Andrea Cheatham here, our housing manager, if you have any questions. These are things that we do each year. The first one is to pass a resolution to allow us to accept $91,154, which is for the capital budget and for use at Planners 2.
Any questions? Ms. Cheatham, would you care to say anything?
No. Like Paul said, it's a yearly, they give us money every year, and we have to bring it before the commission for you all to adopt it into for the new year, and seems to be adequate.
Okay, thank you. Have a motion?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I move that we adopt Resolution B-2180 for Planners 2.
Second.
Motion and a second to accept Resolution B-2180 for the program grant for Planners 2. Begin voting with Commissioner Rainey. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Thank you very much. Next one is Resolution B-2181. It's the Capital Fund Annual Statement, Performance, and Evaluation Report.
And Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and Commission, this is where we explain how we'd used our funding in the past and how we plan to use it over a 5-year period. I think the big project that we're doing right now is the second and final phase of the door replacement project.
Yeah, that project is we're replacing, previously they have replaced the living room closet doors. This time we're going to do the bedroom, the linen closet, and the regular closet doors. So.
Are residents displaced at all during that process?
No, sir.
They can work around them and
It's a much bigger project than it sounds.
I know.
With 105 unit, you're replacing multiple doors in every apartment.
Yeah.
It's a lot of doors coming in and
But
out.
the residents aren't displaced at all.
No, the residents are actually excited because right now they have half gray doors, beautiful 6-panel doors, and the other ones are old, orange, single panel. Yeah, it's time.
Well, no, I know that they love it, but it's, the workers can do it without displacing the resident.
Oh, yes.
And they
Oh,
may have
yes.
to go away for a couple hours down to the lunchroom or something, but they.
Right, yeah, they'll come down in the lobby and hang out for a little bit, and then they'll go right on back out. They don't paint the doors in the building, so that's one way that, to help limit how much it displaces the tenants. They actually paint them at their warehouse.
Okay,
So the only thing that they have to do is install them when they're there, and that's it.
okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
How many apartments are you, is
105.
105? Okay, yeah. Just wanted to know how many people you're moving around there. Yeah.
Take a motion?
Mayor Pro Tem, I move that we approve Resolution B-2181, the Capital Fund Program 5-Year Action Plan for, the Fund Annual Statement and Performance Evaluation Report. Gosh, okay.
Second.
There's no easy way to do that.
Motion and a second to accept Resolution B-2181. Begin voting with Commissioner Weekly.
Aye.
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 Passes 4-0. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Jones.
you.
It's the longest motion award there.
Next item is consider a design contract with the Finis Corp. for the 2018 pavement management program.
Mike McDonald will handle this item, and Mike, if you could give a little bit more information about 20th Street when you get there.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, this is a request to approve design of the 2018 pavement management plan. This is a continuation of the guidance provided by the Commissioners earlier this year to pursue an aggressive granite seal program, curb replacement, and to continue the mill and overlay on our concrete streets, particularly 20th Street. We did use the digital scan that we had done in 2016 by Stantec to base the decisions on, and that has been a very useful tool to have, basically unbiased view of the streets. And we've been focusing on granite seal in the north part of town, and we're going to expand that effort to the center part of town, primarily streets between Potawatomi and Cherokee Street, and streets between Pennsylvania and Lemon Street that have a rating between 45 and 60, where typically a new street would have a rating of, say, 90 to 95. The design will also continue with our 20th Street program, and we can finally kind of start to see the end of 20th Street. I think somebody told me if you stand on the last piece of curb that they worked on this year, you can look off toward Eisenhower and actually see Eisenhower. So what we've been trying to do is curbing replacement 1 year and following behind it with the mill and overlay with the black asphalt pavement that we have. And that next year is the last year for curbing replacement on Eisenhower, and then there are 2 more years of pavement on Eisenhower. The pavement is not just paving, we do repair all the cracks where the joints are deteriorating. You see there's some pretty good sized holes out there today at the south end where the pavement joints come together. To wear and tear, the concrete deteriorates with the rock that was used. And of course, winters are hard on them with the chemicals. Next year's program is currently estimated to be about $1.3 million with the granite seal program at 20th Street and the curbing to go along with that. We're also planning to work on the parking lot of the 500 block of Cherokee, which is the one directly across the street from Bruins Hardware. And we want to try to phase out what we need to do on 10th Avenue, similar to what we've seen on 20th Street, and bring that back to the commission to roll into a series of approvals for future pavement management plans. There's a balance in here for inspection services in 2018 if we were to need it, as well as the funds associated with design of the 2019 program. The design contract for all of that is $100,310 for a $1.3 million expectation of a program.
Any questions for Mr. McDonald? If not, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I would move that we accept the design contract with a finished program for the 2018 pavement management program.
Second.
Motion and a second to accept the design contract with the Finnish Corporation for 2018 pavement management. Begin voting with Commissioner Rainey.
Aye.
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 Passes 4-0. Next item is design contract with George Butler Associates for 2018. Mike?
Yes, sir. This is a recommendation from staff to approve the design contract with George Butler Associates related to 2018 sanitary sewer infill and infiltration project. The 2016 and 17 projects are currently underway as we speak. The contractor is working on the vicinity of Cheyenne Street and 7th Street. He has a yard there with the equipment stage and the start of work. This is a continuation of the same drainage basin area. We call it O1-03. And originally, we had anticipated that this would be primarily repair work with some replacement, but based on our experiences in the last year trying to get the current project completed, we realized that it's almost entirely a replacement project. And as a consequence, it's much more complex than originally anticipated as we work our way through this basin. The process that we are going through, or the order we're pursuing projects, is related to some work that was done in 2012, with the goal being to reduce excess water in the sewer system in the 3 Mile Creek drainage basin, which is effectively everything north of Spruce Street, reduce that excess water by 30% to help reduce the cost of future wastewater treatment plant, because once the water's in the pipe, we're required to treat it. If we can reduce the volume, we reduce plant size. So we're working our way through that. We did have to extend our schedule considerably based on the difficulties that we ran into. Construction costs are expected to be between $350,000 and $500,000 next year for the work that we've undertaken. And the George Butler staff is familiar with the problems based on the problem we had the last 2 years trying to short out sewers in northeast level.
Any questions for Mr. McDonald?
I do have one other thing. There's a typo in here. Correct, if you were to approve this, it's $44,950, not $900.
44,950, okay. Any questions or comments for Mr. McDonald?
You said 44,950?
Correct.
Okay. Ready for a motion?
Yeah, hearing no questions, go ahead.
Okay, I move that we approve the contract with George Butler and Associates for the 2018 sanitary sewer project not to exceed $44,950.
Second.
Motion and a second for the I&I design contract, George Butler. Begin voting with Commissioner Rainey.
Aye.
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 Passes 4-0. Thank you. Next item, purchase of ultraviolet lamps from Ray Lindsay Company. Mike?
Yes, sir. Policy report, which I'll go over. Once again, I have a confusing number. The correct number is $62,546.64.
Say that one more time.
62,546.64. We did get a revised number from them late in the game that decreased the value, which we appreciated. This is associated with the ultraviolet light bulbs used to disinfect wastewater at the treatment plant. This project was completed in 2012, and as part of that project, the city had a contract with the supplier to purchase the lamps at a discounted rate through the end of 2017, which is coming up. As we have replaced the 3 sets of lights, we have replaced 2 of the 3 over the last 2 years, and this is the 3rd one. What we learned from working with the manufacturer was there is a price increase that is due in 2018 that would create a higher price light bulb than we had originally anticipated, which was in fact higher than our contract value. And we confirmed that we can get the lights at the super discount price, if you will, saving the city about $20,000 if we approved them fairly expeditiously, and they granted us an extension to this meeting to approve purchase of the light bulbs at $128.75 apiece. In previous meetings, the commission has asked that staff find ways to reduce the necessity of so much money so quickly on light bulbs. And Chuck Staples, wastewater superintendent, is here, and if I misspeak, he can certainly correct me and give you even more information.
Come on up, Mr. Staples.
But we have been working diligently to find ways to improve that. Some of the things that we have done, I believe we brought to the commission, variable speed pumps to, particularly the low flow part of the day, which is overnight, typically from midnight till 5 or 6 in the morning, evens out the flow, allows us to, the lights are either on or they're off. They don't fluctuate as the pumps go on and off. And that has been a great help. We've got a flow meter repaired and better integrated into the system, which is tied into that whole the variable speed and recirculation thing. And then as we were talking at the staff level with input from city manager, we realized that there was another thing that we could do, which was to reduce the number of light bulbs through the use of the software that are on if the water is clear. Because it turns out that the wastewater that we are treating for most of the day is actually clearer now than it was when we were doing our design. We tested for several months to see how clear the water was, how far the light would penetrate into it. And since it was fairly not clear at that time, they didn't program in the staggered banks of lights, and so we've gone back to the programming people, and they've reprogrammed our to essentially have, you can have half the lights on and vary the strength somewhat. So we believe that will give us longer lasting light bulbs in addition to continue to meet our program.
Thank you for explaining that, because it's easier to say that than it is to write that in this policy.
That was the problem, yeah.
Yeah.
In essence, we can, each of the channels has 2 banks of lights. We can run with 1 bank of light in 1 channel, and you can vary the strength of that down to half if the water is clear enough. Just how far will the ultraviolet light penetrate into wastewater? And whatever we've done has increased our clarity substantially, which allows us to benefit by running the light bulb size.
How did you do that?
Pretty good.
Seal of approval.
So our recommendation this evening is that the City Commission approve the purchase of the 480 light bulbs for $62,546.64. That does include supplies like extra washers and cleaning fluid and some other odds and ends besides just light bulbs.
Mr. Staples, do you have anything to add?
No, Mike, pretty clear. We're doing some testing now on just using 1 bank at a time, and we've had good results with our E. coli. So we're kind of pleased the way that's going.
Any other questions for Mr. McDonald or Mr. Staples?
No.
Now I'll take a motion.
I move that we approve the purchase of 480 low-pressure altar lamps, not to exceed $62,546.64.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the purchase of the ultraviolet lamps and the associated equipment. Begin voting. Commissioner Rainey?
Aye.
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 Passes 4-0. Thank you. Consent agenda.
Mayor Pro Tem and Commission, I move for your approval claims for October 7th, 2017 through October 20th, 2017 in the amount of $523,154.49. The net amount for pay number 21, effective October 13th, 2017, in the amount of $297,753.42, and there is no police and fire pension at this time.
Second.
Motion and second to accept the consent agenda. Begin voting. Commissioner Weekly?
Aye.
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 Passes 4-0. Discussion among commissioners. Commissioner Rainey, anything?
No.
Mr. Dedekey?
I have nothing.
No,
Mr.
sir.
Weekly?
No, yeah,
Mr.
really
Kramer?
quiet
Two
week
quick items.
this week.
2 quick items. Thursday night, 5:30 at Fire Station 1 on 20th Street is the second stormwater public meeting. We look forward to having the public come out and hear about the project, ask any questions they may have. And then Thursday at 10 o'clock, we're just going to do a little ribbon cutting for the 2nd Street Bridge project. I've been out 2 days. I don't know, is the bridge open? No, we're holding it for the ribbon cutting. So that was a really big project that took quite a while to get done. So
Thursday,
do a
10
ribbon
a.m.?
cutting Thursday at 10 o'clock.
Thursday at 10.
I think we'll maybe still be, it won't be freezing cold. Does that come in Thursday or Friday?
They're saying
Friday.
Thursday, Friday, and Saturday last night.
Okay.
That'll be okay.
Won't be too bad.
Quick question on, if you know, on the Home 2. They originally said they're going to turn the keys over to Hilton October 26th, which is Thursday. I just don't see them.
No,
quite there
before
yet.
I left last week, I had heard that maybe that November 14th date was now going to be the end of November.
Okay.
So I don't have an exact date, but I do believe it's been pushed back
They're
about 2
working
weeks.
weekends, and I see people down there at night at times, and they're
Yeah.
trying to get it done, but there's a lot of work. Okay. Mr. Dawson, anything?
No comment.
Ms. Williamson? Your chance. Now I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.